Our second panel, as I mentioned earlier, is about igniting your economic power. It's about making us as whole as possible economically. Somebody connected? All right. All righty. It's about figuring out how we ignite our power so that we could be well-funded, well-grounded, well-supported in doing whatever we want to do for ourselves or for our families or for anyone else. Ladies, can I have your attention? All right, I promise you we'll come back to LinkedIn, promise. All right, so let's give the next group of panelists our full attention. We looked high and low for a moderator that could really weave a conversation to take you from basics of basic economics and wealth building and personal finance, all the way to having a sophisticated conversation with a person who is perhaps building great wealth as a venture capitalist and helping other people find funding for their missions. So we stumbled upon the bio of one Daphne Dufresne, which I will direct you to the booklet to look over it. And I won't read it to you, but I will tell you that she is here representing GenNx 360 Capital Partner. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong person. Forgive me. Our moderator. Yeah. No, our moderator. No, our moderator. I'm introducing the moderator. But Daphne's photo was the first one. Oh, it's on the board. There we go. Thank you. Slight technical difficulties, please forgive me. So I always like to start with our moderator because she'll be leading the conversation. So Jeanique Druze is here from New York City, and she's with JPMorgan Chase. And I want you to read her bio and to just sit in it and see how impressive our sister is and the brain power that she brings to this conversation. And with great intentionality, when I reached out to her, she was very passionate about weaving all the panelists together and making sure that they had a very strong conversation. So I'm gonna bring her to the microphone and then I'll introduce the rest of the panelists, but please welcome our sister, Jeanique Druze. Welcome. Okay. All right, now I'll introduce the rest of the panel. I was mentioning Daphne Dufresne, who is actually in the venture capital space. And for those of you who aren't familiar with venture capital and what venture capitalists do, I'll let her explain it so that she could do it as fluidly as I know it will come to her, less so than me. But please, again, read the bio in the interest of time. But I present to you from GenNx 360 Capital Partners, our brilliant sister, Daphne Dufresne. And the next two panelists are near and dear to my heart because I've known both of them for over 10 years, interestingly enough. I mentioned that I happen to work on the, thank you and welcome, thank you. You look fabulous. All you ladies look fabulous. I happened to work on the Obama campaign in 2008 in Miami, and one of my volunteers that used to come and knock on doors and help me get the work done was Cassandre Davilmar, who is in that 10 years, gone on to law school and graduated and worked on Wall Street, and now she is an entrepreneur. So she's going to speak about her entrepreneurial journey and her time in finance on Wall Street. I'm so proud to have you here, Cassandre Davilmar. Come to the stage. Owner of Lakou Cafe in Brooklyn. Welcome. And lastly, I can vouch for her prowess as a financial advisor. Swanellie Paulin, that I had the pleasure to meet somewhere in the atmosphere in the last 10 years, is a powerhouse, and I just can't wait to see her be, I don't like to say the Haitian version of, but she is going to be the bigger, better version of what we think of Susie Orman. Nothing. So Susie Orman, nothing. She's got nothing on Swanellie Paulin. Come to the stage, Swanellie Paulin. Jones. She helps people build and manage their wealth. Welcome, sister. Welcome. All right, Jeanique.
Hello, everyone. Bon après-midi. Allô, Haïti.
Yes.
Bonjour tout le monde. My Okay, let's do that again. Allo Haiti, bon après-midi. This evening, this day has been amazing. I don't know about the rest of you, but for me, this is my first time, and it's been transformational. I've seen elements in my story in every woman that has been on this stage, and it has been completely powerful. If you're not taking notes, you should be taking notes because there's so many gems of wisdom that are being dropped from this place today. So where do we start? My name is Jeanique Riche-Druses. The hyphenated part is my husband's name. He is not Haitian, but he's watching. And I have the awesome privilege and responsibility of being a vice president of global philanthropy at JPMorgan Chase. I oversee the Northeast region and all of our giving for financial health and small business. So I say awesome responsibility and privilege because that's exactly what it is. So much. In the first panel, we talked about engaging with Haiti. And what does that mean? And how do we do that? And I'll kick off this panel by just sharing a bit of my own story. So my mother's Jamaican, my father's Haitian. Growing up as a child, I never went to Haiti. I was afraid. And my mother was afraid to have me go. Why? Because you know the country that we love suffers from political unrest. My great-grandfather was murdered. My grandfather was murdered. My uncle was murdered. And my father had to flee the country on political asylum with the rest of his brothers and sisters. So it is amazing to be here today. The first time I went to Haiti was after the earthquake in 2010. I had an amazing friend who started a nonprofit organization, Community to Community, to rebuild her father's hometown of Tigua. And she kept telling me, and she's watching, she kept telling me, you have to come, you have to come. And I was like, I'm not going because in my mind, if I stepped off the airplane in Haiti, I felt like I was going to be arrested, killed, murdered, whatever. I was not married at the time, and I still had my last name. The stories you tell yourself play tricks on you. But she made me go. And actually, she didn't make me go. I felt like the Holy Spirit was just like, you need to go on this trip. Because I told her I wasn't going to go, but I was sitting in church, our pastor was praying over her, and I was just like, I guess I'm going. I felt like I got an instruction, and I went with her, and it was a life-changing experience. Because of that trip, I changed what I do for a living. So I went with her, and just observing the surroundings, did not know that I was going to be working on an economic development plan for Tigua. But looking at what was surrounding me, I was just like, this is a very entrepreneurial, hardworking people. I believe the stories that were being told to me that there were no assets in Haiti. Haiti is a rich country. Mm-hmm. It is such a rich country. But with the hard work and with the natural resources, if you don't know how to harness that, if you don't know how to direct that, then you're not going to be able to build lasting wealth. And so what does that mean for us here today? Everyone in this room is privileged because you were able to come to this country. Whether you took a plane to get here, whether your parents took the biggest risk of their lives and came to a new country where they had no one that was just foreign to them, whether you were the person that took that journey, you're here. And so I'm making that statement because if we're going to support Haiti, if we're going to give back and help Haiti rebuild, then we have to make sure that we're okay. So it's like on the plane. They tell you that, if should anything happen, put the mask on yourself before you put it on another person. And so we're going to talk about that today. How do you put the mask on yourself? So I'm going to read a couple of statistics to you, just to make sure that we're grounded in reality. And the statistics that I'm going to read are specifically about the Black community in the United States. And the reason why I'm focused on the Black community is because the majority of the people that immigrate here or that are part of the Haitian diaspora in this country are Black. When they see you, they don't see Haitian, Haitian American, they see Black person. And so all of the statistics that are written about Black people also contain all of that. So here's some statistics that I wanted to share with you. Blacks are nearly twice as likely as whites to have zero or negative net worth. By 2024, median Black households are projected to own 60 to 80% less wealth than they did in 1983. By then, the continued rise in racial wealth inequality between median Black and white households is projected to lead white households to own 99 times more wealth than their Black counterparts. If the racial wealth divide is left unaddressed and is not exacerbated further over the next 8 years, median Black household wealth is on a path to hit zero by 2053. White household wealth could climb to $137,000 by that same year. So if we're planning to be here to support Haiti, then the first thing we have to do is support ourselves. Now, we heard it said from the stage that if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. And so we have to get to planning. And that's why I am so excited to be here with this panel today. And I also have to acknowledge the firm that I work for. I do work for JPMorgan Chase, and when the amazing women that started this organization reached out to me, we were talking about how they were going to cover travel or whatever have you. My company stood up and they said that they would sponsor it. So I have to acknowledge that because I think that's also integral to this conversation. So where I work, we focus on inclusive economic growth. I get to focus on that day in and day out. I get to focus on how do we support business owners like some that are on the stage to build generational wealth. Get to focus on financial health. So this is what I get to spend my time doing. And I feel privileged in order to be able to do that. And I think just important for everyone here, we've started an initiative called Advancing Black Pathways that is all about building wealth, career opportunities, and education opportunities, specifically for the Black community. That is not a philanthropic initiative. That is a business initiative. And we like to say, you got to keep it 700 plus. You know what I'm talking about? That's your credit score. Mm-hmm. We don't want to see anything less than 700. There is a credit crisis in the Black community, and we have to start talking about these things. We have to be transparent about these things. And so this conversation is really important. We're going to get really transparent. We are going to demystify finance for you by giving it that human touch. And so eyes and ears open, take notes. I know I've been taking notes as I've been talking to these women. And we're going to just jump right into the heart of things because we were all just introduced. So the first question that I have for this esteemed group of panelists, and Swanellie, I'm going to start with you because this question actually emanated from the conversation that we had together. And the question that I'm going to ask, and as they're answering this question, I want everyone in this room to think about it. What was your first transformational financial memory? What is creating your current financial outlook on life?
Can you guys hear me? Yes. So I was born in Haiti, and I remember, and I didn't really think about this until like a couple of years ago, like I told you. I believe in holistic wealth management, and as a financial advisor, you want to make your clients money. That's the name of the game. You got to make money, grow wealth, pass it on, and create legacies. But I realized for the past 11 years, there are some clients who kind of like hold back before investing their money in the market, or even when it comes to planning. So I went back and I started asking them some questions, like, why didn't you invest? Or why didn't you buy this particular investment when I called you? Why didn't you continue the conversation about buying insurance and so on and so forth? And I just kept getting that feedback of fear. Like, they're afraid, they don't know, and so on and so forth. So I thought to myself, wow, there's some serious trauma, financial trauma. And we don't talk about it, we don't think about it, right? We just kind of like move on. You know, I just want to make my money, put it in the bank, earn the interest, that 0.0 nothing, and then keep it moving, right? So then I then continue to ask, well, when did that start? Because it didn't just occur, you didn't just wake up and then all of a sudden you're afraid of money, or when people start having that conversation, you just kind of like, you know, tense up a little bit. So I had to go back into my own experience, my own childhood. So I was born and raised in Haiti. I grew up in Carrefour. I went to Juvenile, so any Juvenistes in the room? Yes. So I remember I was around like 8 years old, and there was this field trip. And this is like mid-90s where during the embargo, money couldn't go to Haiti. So my mom paid for me to go on this field trip. And the field trip was already paid for. I'm like, you know, I'm excited. Saturday morning, I wake up. I mean, it's Friday night. I'm like, Mommy, I got to get ready. I'm going to wear this outfit. She's like, you're not going. I'm like, yeah. So she's crazy. And I'm going tomorrow. She's like, no, Swanellie, you're not going to go. So I wake up on Saturday morning, and I'm getting ready. And she's like, you're not going. It's done. It's done. We're not having this conversation. So I'm like, okay. So I convinced myself that because I wasn't going on the trip was canceled. You know, so I had a great day, I played with my friends, and life went on. On Monday morning, I get to school, everybody went on the trip, and they were talking about it, they had a great time, and I thought to myself, like, why would she do that? You already paid, and then I didn't go, and there was no, like, real reason why I couldn't go, so I went home, and it was like, I think this was the very first time I had, I guess for me, it was like a serious conversation with my mom questioning her decision. So I said, Mommy, I don't understand. Why? Why didn't I go? And she looked at me, she said, well, going through this embargo, we didn't have enough for me to make salad russe, pour me fried chicken, pour me faire du riz à Dijon, pour me mettre in this, what's that thing, the 3 canisters? Right, cantine, for me to send you. And I'm thinking to myself, are you serious? I was one of those kids that you had to beat me to eat. Like, this thing would have come right back home. And then it hit me. Oh, my God. Because she didn't have enough money, I mean, really wanted to, relying on society as well, like, parler mon parler mal, right? But because she didn't have enough money, I wasn't able to go on that trip. So at that young age, I thought, this will never happen to me. Ever. I will never be in a situation where I want something, I can't get it because I can't afford it. I can be in a situation where I want something or I see something, I'm not going to get it because I don't want to. So that was my very first relationship with money and understanding that. So when I did that exercise for myself, moving forward, whenever I'm speaking with my clients, I ask them that question. What is your relationship with money? Is it fear? Some people, whenever I mention wealth, they're like, yeah, that's for white people. That don't apply to me, right? Or whenever I mention that, they're like, I don't know what that is, and I don't see, Swanellie, what are you talking about, you know? And they can't relate. And other people, when I ask them, what's your first memory of money, it's, well, there was like eviction notice on our door when I was growing up. You know, others are like, listen, my parents, I make $175,000 per year, Swanellie. That's more money than my parents have ever made. I can't afford to lose a penny. So there is that fear of investing because that's all they have. So I charge you ladies to take a moment and think about that relationship with money. Whatever, because every single one of us in this room have experienced some type of financial trauma. Whether you watched it or it happened directly to you, to your parents, family members, take a minute and sort of digest and see, where do you get your money values from? Is it something that was taught to you? Is it something that you borrowed? Is it something that you witnessed? And then think, what is the reality? And then decide which path you want to continue on.
Thank you. So Daphne, I'm going to throw it to you.
So just by background, Jeanique, your story resonated with me in terms of your background and upbringing, because I didn't know Haiti much growing up. I have 2 Haitian parents. I was born here, but both my parents left for political reasons, and on both sides. And they were also a lot older. They had me when they were a lot older in life. So my mom is 90. Wow. And if my father were alive, he'd be 108. Wow. So what that means is when they left, they were of the pre-Duvalier generation, and they knew him and went to school with him, and they saw what was coming, and they wanted to get out. So my father left on better circumstances, but when my mother left, she left because her brother was working or was a classmate of Duvalier's, and he was gotten himself to the States, and he had to get his sons to the States. And they packed up as if it was a regular day, and they got on a plane, and they never went back. So she had nothing when she came to this country. And they met here. They were divorced by the time I was 5. And so raised by a single mom in Brooklyn, New York. We all know that story, right? And my relationship with money really comes from her. Because she was, I don't know if you guys remember that TV show, MacGyver. I'm probably dating myself now for some of the younger people in the room. But he was this character who could just make something out of nothing. Mm-hmm. And she was that type of person. So she was extremely frugal. She was a saver. And she taught my sister and I how to save. We had bank accounts when we were very young, very early, and we were taught how to save our money. And, you know, it's interesting as you talk about our relationships with money, because I think a lot of us can tell that story of saving, but then there's the other side of it, which is taking risk and being a risk taker and investing. And I wouldn't say I was taught that lesson. As I think through personal experiences, I'm going to share 3 quick stories because they balance your notion on trauma, but also opportunity. So first recollection I can have of myself with money, I was probably like 5 or 6. My father's over, we're hanging out. He wants to go buy something to the store. He doesn't have like loose change. And he's like, I was always that little kid with money. So he's like, Daphne, give me like $2 or $3. And I was like, you want money from me? And he was like, yeah, give me like $2 or $3. Bon wake up, like, you know, what's the big deal? So I went to my room, and by the way, my room I shared with my sister and my mother because we were in a 1-bedroom apartment, but Mom wanted to make sure we were living on the right side of town because she was rated dirty fille pour compte. And so I went to my room, I got the money for him, but then I wrote a little loan promissory note. Yes! And with my little contract, and he's like, Kisa, you know, like, what is this? And, you know, they just thought it was so crazy, but to me, that just made sense. So that's a little bit about how I was wired. But then I'll also, from a trauma perspective, remember going to the grocery store every weekend with my mom. And again, she was a saver, she was a planner, and she wasn't into credit, which is not a good thing to be anti-credit. But she was anti-credit, so no credit card, right? Pardon. So, you know, she'd go there with the exact amount of money, knowing exactly what she was going to buy. And most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, her calculations were spectacular. But every now and then, she might have missed it a little bit. And we're online, and I'm a kid, and I'm with my sister, and we both get that feeling when all of a sudden the cashier would say, you know, the total is X dollars. And we were short. And my mom was very particular with her budget, so she wasn't going over. So she would say, we got to take some stuff out. And what that meant for us as kids was the cashier would go, I need a void. And it was so embarrassing because now everybody knew. And the people behind us all start fidgeting and getting upset. because that means now they're delayed. And I just remember that feeling of not wanting to have to budget so precise, that not being able to just buy things when I need this. And I mean, I'm not talking about going out to the store and getting Gucci and Louis, right? We're talking about food, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is a very real scenario with me. The quick flashback I'll tell you on another flip side is freshman year in high school. I go to a private school for high school in Manhattan. And I go to a birthday party and to Manhattan. You know, it's a nice, beautiful doorman building, and that's fine. You know, I've been to doorman buildings before. But we're escorted on the elevator to go up to my friend's house, and we get off the elevator, and we're into her apartment. They owned the entire floor. Wow. And I had never seen that before. And it opened my eyes that there is a completely other world out there that I was never exposed to. Because, you know, I knew some people with houses, you know, Queens, right? Queens, all the people in Queens, you know, they have houses, right? You know, we were in Brooklyn still living in our apartment, you know, hoping to get to Queens for the big house. But, you know, here was another level where it was an apartment, but it was the entire floor. And I said to myself, okay, there's another money story here that I don't know about, and I'm going to learn.
So, Cassandre, you took a bit of a different path. So you're a bit of a risk taker, and you left your job to start a business. So what was it about your background that made you think about and plan for an exit and then to take that exit?
Ooh, I feel like it's all very related. Well, first of all, hi, everybody. Thank you for having us here. You guys look so beautiful, like beautiful. Just wanted to say that first. But I mean, in regards to taking risks, I would have to say, you know, a lot of it was shaped off of like my childhood memories, in the sense of my mother had a very different approach, I think, than maybe a lot of mothers, in the sense that, you know, she faced some trauma when it came to money. Her father was an alcoholic. She grew up in Haiti, and her family wasn't necessarily like en forme, you know? It was very, you know, mom was over there, grandma's doing this, dad is running the streets, and she never had that reliability. But when it came to me, she did take one great lesson from her father. And even though he didn't have a lot of money, when he always made it a point to do something very special with her, because he said that he never wanted her to want for money. So with me, as a young child, we didn't grow up with a lot of money. Like, the car that we were driving in was like as old as me, in Miami, Florida. But there was one instance where she took me to Bloomingdale's at the falls. I don't know, those of you from Miami, okay, I felt like Zuzun, okay? She bought me this beautiful like suit there that I'm pretty sure cost like over $100 for like a 9-year-old, you know, little girl. And she explained to me how she grew up, and she said, Cassandre, I don't want you to be that person that feels as though you have to work hard to, you know, buy really expensive things. I want you to, you know, feel comfortable in who you are and know that you had that. It was cool. It was cute. But now you can focus on bigger, better things. And the bigger, better things that she focused on was home ownership. My mom, you know, she came from Haiti. She worked as a, you know, nurse that was, you know, a CNA, LPN, registered nurse. She did all the nursing. And she has 2 homes. So that was kind of like the example for me. It was more of like, okay, I'm going to get this money. I'm going to stack this bread. But what am I going to do with it? Like, money alone doesn't, you know, doesn't define me. Having beautiful clothes and beautiful shoes, that's not enough. Like, what am I going to do to build wealth? So that was always my strategy. You know, when it came to picking the profession, I'm like, okay, what's the profession that all the Gozuzuns have? I was like, okay, lawyer, business person. Oh, where are they working? Oh, Wall Street. Okay, I gotta go there. So that was my goal, no lie. I was like, okay, if Haitian people are gonna be great, that's where I need to go. I need to learn from them. I need to see what they're doing. So I went and I learned and I saved my money and I purchased a home. And, you know, home ownership, if you look in the Constitution, it's like one of the biggest things. That's how Donald Trump become wealthy, you know, through owning property. So it's definitely like the cornerstone in building wealth in this country is having land. So at 27, I purchased a 3-family home in Brooklyn, in gentrified Brooklyn, save all my coins, you know, learn what I can learn. And I eventually got into investment banking after doing law for like 2 years. Learned a bit more, and I felt like I had enough tools to eventually start a business. So that's where I'm at. But I would have to say that feeling of taking risks, that feeling of like seeing money as something that you play with, had to come from the lessons that she taught me at a pretty young age.
That's amazing. You started a very interesting trend. So basically your career is defined by wealth building. And I think that's the same for every panelist here. So I just want to give both Swanellie and Daphne an opportunity to just share your journey to getting to your current career. Like, how did a pursuit of wealth building lead you to where you are right now? And how does what you do right now translate into wealth building?
You want me to go?
Sure.
So I was in banking. I used to work for Washington Mutual Bank, which is now Chase. So I have a degree in accounting, but I knew that I did not want to work as an accountant because I have a personality, I love people, and I wanted to do more than that. Please, my fellow accountants, don't be offended. I love numbers, just I want to just integrate the whole thing. So there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me on the other side, on the investment banking side. So after Washington Mutual got seized and handed over to JPMorgan Chase, I decided that I was going to go back to school to get a second degree in finance because I thought, well, you know, if I want to do that, I need a second degree. Then a friend of mine is also like one of a huge champion for me, called me. She's like, Swanellie, there's this company. It's called Eddie Jones. I'm like, who names a company Eddie Jones? That's crazy. She's like, yeah, I think it would be great. You know, you get to run your own business. You get to help people. You get to help them, you know, build their lives, save money, save for retirement, build legacies, build multi-generational wealth. I'm like, wow, that's kind of dope. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'll apply. So I applied, went through my 12-step, the interview process, got the position, and then I found out exactly what I needed to do, you know, which is kind of like meet people, get them to trust me, and get them to give me their life savings. Their life savings, and then invest it in the market. I'm like, cool, I can do that. But it just so happened to be 2008 when everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. It was a financial crisis. And looking back, I think it was the first time for me to start in the business. So I've been with my firm, Edward Jones, for 11 years now. Yes, I started at the tender age of 10, which makes me forever 21, just legal. So I've been with them for about 11 years, and I started in the business. And very early on, there wasn't, once I finally got there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me. But I was so blessed. Very early on, my mentor, Gary C. Beeman, took me under her wing. Kind of like I worked out of her office. She gave me assets to start. And if you're not in the world of investment, that's huge. For someone to take you under their wing, you work out of their office, and they give you assets. By giving assets, that means that they're carving a piece of their business, what they've built over the God knows how number of years that they've been doing it, and handing it to you. That's like seed money, right? Mm-hmm. So she did that for me and And honest to God, looking back, I mean, it was a privilege, but I didn't know I didn't know what other Black advisors were experiencing. So I really didn't know how privileged I was at that particular time. And she trained me. She's just amazing. So after working out of her office for a period, I opened my own office. And I opened my own office in Tequesta, Florida. Anyone know where Tequesta is? Jupiter, north of Jupiter? Okay. It's in Florida. Jupiter, Palm Beach County. So that's where I opened my office. And my passion was to do business in my community. And I soon figured that wasn't possible right away, to say the least, because I had to build a business and be profitable and actually have money come in to survive, to thrive. So although it broke my heart because I was going to go and change the world at 22 years old, and every Haitian in South Florida was going to be gazillionaires because of me, soon I figured that wasn't possible. So my office, I built it in Tequesta, and obviously, majority of my clients did not look like me, but I made it a point to stay connected to my community because I know that I was adding value, and I know to some extent they need my expertise even more than, again, I love my clients, but I know that I was changing lives by sitting down, talking to someone about their retirement, sitting down, talking about what it's like to invest in the market, sitting down, going over the yield or the return that you can get on the money that you have at the bank that's earning 0.0 nothing. So I sort of continued to do that. Then finally, I moved my office to Pompano Beach. I opened a second office to be closer to my house because I bought a house, and I didn't want to be going back and forth an hour from Coconut Creek at the time to Tequesta. When I did that, I decided to spend a little bit more time in the Haitian community to give back. And then I had it was an interesting experience. I decided to go on the radio, in the Haitian radio. Any of you guys ever been in the Haitian radio to talk to? So my friend Valencia can attest, yes. My friend Dr. V is here, and she had to listen to me every time I get off the radio because it was great because I was connecting with my people. I'm like, yes, this is great. I'm going to teach everybody about the basics of investing. But it also broke my heart because I realized how much we didn't know. We work in this country. We make money. We send our kids to school. But when it comes to this knowledge, using the strategies and the resources of this country to build legacies and build multi-generational wealth, we have no clue. None whatsoever. So it became a struggle. And when you are under radio and you're speaking, people are calling and they're asking questions, I realized, I have to go down to a whole nother level because you're not going to du tout, comprendre? And I thought, oh my gosh, Swanellie, you thought you were changing lives. You have to take a step back and start from the basics and then build on that. So it was both, I loved it. It was a great experience, but it was incredibly frustrating but sad at the same time.
Let me jump in right there.
Yes.
Because we heard earlier today, we were talking about how we were going to support Haiti, is that we were going to take the wealth that we were building in this country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to use that wealth in order to support Haiti.
Yes.
But if we're under the fallacy that we're building wealth, you heard the statistics that I mentioned earlier, which include most of the people in this room.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going to happen? And so I want to take what you were talking about investing,
mm-hmm.
because there is a lot that goes into investing, right? And that's a key tool in order to have your money work for you and to have it grow exponentially. And I want to kick it over to Daphne to talk about, how do you do that? How did you get into your career? What does your career have to do with building money, and how have you been able to see that grow? and bless you, your family, and now your ability to impact others?
Sure. So, you know, my family was very big in education. And so, you know, failure wasn't an option. Anything below an A wasn't acceptable. And you were either going to be a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. And so my sister was supposed to be the doctor. She's sitting over there. And I was supposed to be the engineer because I liked math and science. So that was the plan. I majored in biomedical engineering. I successfully graduated with my biomedical engineering degree. But I found it boring, and I didn't feel like it utilized my full personality. And so that was one aspect. But let's go back to your question, because I was very focused on money. And so I was cool with my family's concept of being an engineer, because I was like, engineers make a lot of money. So this works with my plan. Now, this was back in '94, and while the Silicon Valley internet boom was happening, it wasn't happening to the level that it is. So it wasn't visible to me. And so my understanding of engineering at that time was that engineers kind of plateau. They start out high, but they kind of plateau in terms of how much money they make. But the people on Wall Street, it seemed like an unlimited pot of gold. Right. So I was like, okay, I got to figure that out. So I went into management consulting. I did that for 2 years. I was fortunate that they were willing to pay for me to go to business school, but I wanted to work abroad, so I worked abroad, worked in Bank of Scotland in the UK in structured finance because I got a position doing LBOs. I didn't know what an LBO was, but everybody that I had gone to school with were talking about LBOs, which is a leverage buyout. And so it was like, okay, that seems like the place to make money. So I did that, went to business school, and in my heart of hearts, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start a business, build a business. But I also have this issue with risk. And you know, life is about risk and return and balancing the two. And so what I liked about being a private equity investor, which is what I do today, is that you kind of get to take a risk on a portfolio of companies as opposed to one. Now, the downside is if you do one and you hit it big, you know, that could be a 10x, 100x, a 1,000x, right? But, you know, in my world, you know, we're good at a 3 or 4x return. We're very happy, or a 2x return. And so, so what I do today is, if you think about the show Shark Tank, on a simplistic level, I'm a shark. So I invest in companies, I buy them outright, and it's all about trying to figure out how we can grow the business, whether it's bringing in more management, whether it's going into new markets, whether it's giving them money to invest in bigger, better platforms, IT systems, scale and infrastructure, whatever it is. And the plan is in about 4 to 5 years' time, we sell the business and hopefully we double, triple, quadruple our money. In terms of path, again, I skipped some steps here. I started at a fund in Boston. It was a fund, it was about $600 million when I first started. By the time I left, we were managing over $2 billion. And then I got an opportunity to launch a fund with a group of partners. And so I raised a $230 million fund. I did that for over 11 years, where I was one of the founding partners. And it was a successful fund. We did well. And a couple of years ago, I joined GenNx 360, which is a larger platform with a group of partners where I was able to be an owner and part of a larger entity. And as you link back to generational wealth and why this industry and this profession allows me to do that is, so if you think about investing, what I do is I invest on behalf of other people. So I use other people's money, which is kind of nice. I put mine too, so I got to put my little bit with the rest. But we're GenNx 360. We're $1 billion for assets under management. We're currently on our third fund, and so from a simplistic level, let's say our fund was $500 million, just to make the numbers easy. $500 million fund. At a minimum, you expect to double your money. So if we double our money, 80% of our profits go back to our investors. So 20% comes in-house as incentive compensation. So that would be $100 million based on a $500 million fund being paid out to the partners and the staff. Now, the thing about private equity and venture capital is it doesn't take a lot of people to run our businesses. We're a highly scalable model. And so in terms of our company, that's about 37 people sharing $100 million, and that's just one fund. Our business is about raising multiple funds, and so once you start stacking these funds, the numbers can get quite large. Now, granted, you're doing this over an extended period of time. You're talking about 5 to 10 years for each fund, but over time, it can provide you with an opportunity to create serious generational wealth. And that's not just wealth about you and yourself, but wealth that you don't see that goes beyond your lifetime, right? Wealth that allows your kids to be set, your grandkids to be set, and hopefully your great-grandkids will get some beneficiary of that as well.
So, amazing. So there are a couple of themes that we hear, throughout what's being said here. So one thing that's coming through is that each of these women are highly strategic and intentional about building wealth. But one thing that I think we haven't really heard is that everything that they've talked about has actually worked out up to this point, right? But we know that things aren't necessarily that easy. You have to be willing to pivot. You have to be flexible. You have to, always stay like one step ahead, right? So right now I want to talk to Cassandre a bit. And can you just tell us about some of the pivots that you had to take on your journey to building economic wealth?
Ooh, a lot. I'll speak more of what I did to first set myself up for success. So I would say I'm more of the turtle type person. So I know it could look like, oh, this person has been in a lot of different industries in the sense that I've worked as a lawyer, I've also worked as an investment banker, and now I'm working as an entrepreneur, and I'm 31. So I probably shifted gears quite a bit, but my rationale behind it all I take very much so like a cash flow type of approach, which can be considered pretty conservative. So I try to set myself up in the best way I can, and that way is, okay, what are your budgeting needs? What do you need cash for? Okay, how can you limit those? So as I mentioned earlier, one of the ways was by having a home that produces cash flow so that I don't have to worry so much about cost of living. And cost of living is probably some of our, if not our biggest expense, and that's what holds us, to essentially having a job a lot of the times. Paying off my student debt. That was a big one. So I'm student debt free. So that gives you, in my case, that gives you $100,000, $200,000 to invest in something else. And by having a home, you're able to access the capital markets a lot easier. Oh, you have a home that's worth, over $1 million, and you have a job. Banks are like, take all the money. I'll give you all the money you want to invest in something else. That being said, even though I have tried to, and also just having a cushion. For me, it was having a savings that was about at least a year worth of living expenses for me before I took certain risks. So I like to think that I was pretty calculated in that sense before I took a big risk that even my mom was like, oh, what are you doing? You want to start a cafe, Cassandre? You're a lawyer. What are you doing? Even before I took that risk, I did think about it. But I can't say that I did everything right in the sense that as a woman, I think sometimes even though you are that strength, even though you are that pillar, even though you've proven to others and yourself that you have all it takes to create everything that you could ever imagine, for some reason, sometimes you feel as though you can't, or you need a partner, or you need somebody to tell you that you're great, or you need somebody to hold your hand to help you execute your very own vision, when that's not the case. You can do it by yourself. Right. When I say by yourself, you can be the boss. It's okay to be the boss. You do not need to have an equal partner. You can have supporters, you can have investors, You can have, people who want to help you execute your vision, but you don't need to, when you're building wealth, you don't need them to equally have what you have. Because as stated earlier, us women, especially as Haitian women, we put like our souls into everything. And that other person might not, So that being said, I had a partner and it didn't go too well. And I say all of that because I want you guys to avoid like the mistakes that I've made, in the sense that, plan, make your plan, trust in your gut, but, make sure that you have your legal work tight, make sure that you treat this as a marriage and that you you get that prenup kind of thing. You contemplate all those, all those scenarios, because it really is important. You don't want to put your heart and your, soul into something and have somebody either try to take it away or feel as though they're equally entitled to it when they're not. And, we're in America, and sometimes the paper means more than like the actuality. Was that frank enough?
I think that was pretty frank.
You guys don't know how often I hear people say, oh, I'm going to get a partner. You don't need a partner, guys. Please repeat after me. I don't need a partner. I can do this by myself. Because you guys can, If you have any ideas out there, there's so many resources out there to help you execute your vision. Don't feel like you need to lean on somebody else to get it done, because you don't. You have it all within you.
So I want to dig there for a minute, because there's something you didn't touch on. The first company that you opened up is no longer in existence.
No, man.
Right? But you still have another company.
Yes.
So how did you transition from the one that is no longer open to the one that you're in now?
I mean, I would have to say the one that I'm in now is and has always been like my brainchild. And, it's kind of, sometimes it's cool to, invest in different projects, kind of see what works and what doesn't work. And, to some extent on a very smaller scale, that's similar to like the private equity fund strategy, where you have a diverse portfolio and you get to see what works and what doesn't work, so that you can hopefully replicate a model that has like even more money, coming out of it. So, I'm pretty certain every entrepreneur has had failures, and you learn from them and you just invest more and you move smarter on the next project. But I would say that the first project, I had a vision for it that my partner probably had a different vision for it, and our visions didn't align. And the second project, which is Lakou Cafe, that one I got to take essentially full control over that and really execute the vision that I had in mind for it. And that vision, in addition to, providing people with food and drinks and coffee and filling a void in a market that was a changing market, like a gentrifying market, it was bringing a piece of my culture, bringing like a level of soul into your business. And the soul that I brought, which is very like exemplified in the name Lakou, is like I wanted it to be a space that people can be themselves, that people can get to know each other, that people can learn, that, we have everything from Creole language classes, and it's not a big space. Anybody who's been there, it's like 550 square feet of magic that's happening in this space, but we'll have a Creole class over here, we'll have movie night, we'll have people talking about financial intimacy, we'll have mixers, we'll have art classes, and in addition to that, you'll see a diverse group of people. And I say that to say that, like, what was the difference between the other business and this business? I think it's really just like having a vision, being clear on it, having everybody buy into that vision, and, seeing it come into fruition. And I think that magic is sometimes something that like only you as a creator can kind of bring to the space. So you kind of have to like protect that and trust yourself that, you can execute it that way and not make so many compromises for what? Trust your vision, go with it. So I would say, to me, that was probably one of the biggest things I learned between the two businesses. And I still have a lot more to learn, but I'm glad to say that it's been a year and a half. Our revenues have doubled. Our customer base is continuously increasing even into the fall. So, there's definitely a strong desire for this space in the community, and a lot of people, you know, regardless of the demographics, even, you know, I was kind of afraid. I was like, oh, the Haitian people are going to feel like this is very Haitian. This is kind of like, you know, Haitian fusion. But, you know, they're proud and they're happy to see it. They're happy that, you know, we're sharing our culture. You know, beauty is important as well in your business. Whatever business you do, especially when it comes down to like branding, or even if you're creating a space, people want to be in a space that inspires them. People want to be around something that connects them. And at least when it comes to Lakou, we are definitely the most beautiful business on the block. So, you know, we're representing Haiti very well, you know. Haiti is a beautiful place, and, you know, on Utica in Crown Heights, we're like that gem. Everybody's like, oh, this should be in Soho. I'm like, no, this belongs right here. We deserve beauty too. So. Awesome.
I'm sure all of you have like burning questions that you want to ask these ladies. So start getting online, ask your questions. But at the same time, we have some questions for you, right? So you heard the first question that was asked earlier. What is your relationship with money? So you should be thinking about that. You should be getting that answer ready. And then the second question that we have for you, you've heard these three women talk about their passions. It's evident in the way that they speak and how they get animated and how they sit on the edge of their seats and the fact that they just want to like keep talking and talking and talking, right? This is great. So the question is, what are you passionate about? Because that's the key to your success. So 2 questions for you. What is your relationship with money, and what are you passionate about? Now we're going to come back to you about that. But first, we're going to let you ask us some questions. So we're going to start over here.
Thank you so much for a really wonderful conversation. I'm going to New York in November, and first thing I'm going to do is to go to Lakou Cafe. Absolutely. My question, you all talked about your experiences with your mothers, you know, single mothers, hardworking mothers. And, you know, we still have communities, at least in Miami, where we have a lot of working class, hardworking women and men for whom this sort of wealth building is still sort of an elusive goal, right? And I have the pleasure to work in an organization, Haitian Neighborhood Center, whose you know, mission and core work is to transform that. But it's very challenging. So my question to you is this something that you're interested in working on, in finding this sort of formula, you know, around tax time, when these women have their earned income tax credit returns, you know, sometimes $5,000. How, you know, what is the formula? What would be the formula to use those, you know, either the savings or that income to transform their wealth? We know that for Haiti, you know, we cannot put that mask on because we have to take care of Haiti. You know, when you have to send those transfers, you just have to. You can't ignore the calls from mom or, so, you know, that's something that you just cannot do, is just say, okay, I have to build my wealth first and I'll take care of you. So we have to take that into the equation when we're finding wealth building formulas for our community. So just what would you do to help women like your mother change their behaviors and become, you know, wealth builders in a way?
Okay, I'll go. So thank you. That's a great question. So I am very passionate about helping, I would say, the older Haitian generation who don't really understand the resources or the strategies available to manage their money. So if you're from Florida, you're familiar with Publix? Oh, yeah. And you guys know all the Haitian, yes.
That's up.
I mean, these Haitians who works at Publix, yes, I'm gonna put their business out there, are some of the wealthiest Haitians in South Florida, right? And because they don't know, everybody wanna cash out their public stocks and go build a house in Haiti, right? Or withdraw money from their 401k, pay before the age of 59 and a half, pay that 20% penalty and go build a house in Haiti. So yes, as you mentioned, they don't know what they don't know. So I enjoy having that conversation If the space is available, I would be more than happy to go there, parler nan lang yo, expliquer yo, ou kompren mwen, m'pa gen problem.
Okay. Hi, ladies. Thank you very much. You can't hear me? Can you guys hear? Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. I want to give a plug to Lakou Cafe. I go there frequently. It's kind of amazing. The food is really clean and very fresh and just delicious. So, okay, that was my plug. My question is for someone who, like myself, who maybe, I'm not making a ton of money, but I have some disposable income and I have some investments going. What are some strategies that you recommend? Maybe outlets that, it's not necessarily out there. Like, thank you so much for, Daphne, for explaining that whole aspect of, equity and buying and how maybe I could buy into that. But are there other avenues other than the stock market or real estate that we should be thinking about, that we should know about on a budget?
Who wants to take that question?
Sure, I can start. I think there are always things that you can be doing to increase your wealth. I mean, first and foremost, if you have debt, paying down debt is really important, because that is something that stifles a lot of us, and we don't think about both sides of the balance sheet. So making sure that you pay down the debt side. But let's talk on the fun stuff about what can you been doing to investing. There's a couple of different things. The rules have become more relaxed to invest in things like alternatives, and alternatives would be private equity and venture capital. The rules are becoming easier for everyday people to invest, where you can put smaller sums of capital in that as you think about your asset allocation. So that is one area. Investing in the stock market, whether it is through a mutual fund, if you're getting your start and you don't know exactly what to buy into, or if you're following a particular company and you're passionate about it, that's always a good way to think about investing. And it doesn't have to always be big dollars. You can start off with, like I remember, my daughter, she loves Lululemon, right? So I started tracking Lululemon, Amazon, as it got bigger and bigger, and it's like, okay, I don't really see much that's going to stop Amazon. So I'm going to start investing in buying but I'm buying small shares, 5 shares, 10 shares, if they go down, and if it's a company that I believe in the long term, I'll just keep adding to that portfolio. So there are little things that you can do along the way. In terms of transformational wealth, it really, one of the best ways is entrepreneurship. And I think when we think of entrepreneurship, oftentimes we think of, Bill Gates, or we think of Mark Zuckerberg, and, you're thinking about that explosive multi-billionaire. But 80% of the businesses in this country are small businesses. And what they're doing is they're replicating oftentimes the income they would have made if they had a job, but they're giving themselves financial freedom and flexibility to do things the way they want to do it, to go to work when they want to work harder when they want to work, to build and expand and work with the people that they want to be with. So it does take staying power to be a successful entrepreneur. So when you talked about having your affairs in order and having savings of a year, you do need that savings cushion in order to get things going, because entrepreneurship takes time. It's slow. But the well-kept secret of the millionaire next door is true. To your point about the public, guys, there's lots of people that are wealthy that don't look it, but they are, because they're just investing their money and they're being smart and thoughtful and having a strategy. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hold on a second. If I can add to that for a second, look at this room, right? We have a Haitian Ladies Network. There's no reason why this can't also become a Haitian Ladies Investment Network. So I'll just put that seed in there for the ladies that are running the Haitian Ladies Network. We have everything that we need right here. Okay.
So I don't know if you guys ever seen the ESPN series 30 for 30. They had one special about how young football players lose their money. And what I found interesting about that was that the majority of them lose their money not by buying flashy cars and things like that, but because they're like trying to build everybody else up, take everybody out the hood, buy mama a house, buy daddy a car, like JoJo down the street is all of a sudden your manager, all those things. But it's not only, professional sports players, it's also educated people who, when we go to school, we become the first one in our families to become successful. And there's that pressure to bring everybody else up with you. So my question is, how do we take care of our communities without also going broke?
I mean,
Is anyone going to take that question?
and those of you who know me know that I talk about having people on payroll. So if you ever had a conversation with me, I will ask you who you got on payroll. And you're going to look at me like you're crazy, like I'm crazy. And then I'll ask you again, who you got on payroll? And you're like, well, I don't have a business. I work. I don't have anybody on payroll. Chances are you do. And Leonie, yes, we have people in Haiti who depend on us, right? They make that phone call, and sometimes it's just like, it's you sending that money and them eating, right? But we can't give to the point where we don't have for ourselves, right? So what I tell my clients is, the reason why I say, and it's also a cultural thing, right? It's also a cultural thing, because it's not every, and I see this a lot, and minorities and immigrants and women, my Caucasian clients, they don't really have that problem. Right? They don't, because, they inherited wealth, they have money, grandpa gave them a condo when they became a freshman in college, so they don't really have to deal with that issue. So what I tell my clients and friends is this: okay, fine, this whole payroll thing is not going to go away by itself, right? It's just not. So we need to budget for that person or for those people, and whatever is on the budget, and you got to be strict, because you come first. If you're not making enough for you to survive, you can't afford to give to other. Then you resent them. Then that phone call, 509, mpapral. You understand what I'm saying? You're like, I don't even. And then you're really on WhatsApp, you're really on telephone, then Facebook, then messages are coming up on your Facebook, really, and all that stuff. So, it's not going to go away by itself, because the need is there. So my recommendation is, do a budget, whatever amount that you are comfortable, and that's after you have your savings, 12 months worth of savings or 6 months worth, whatever it is that you are comfortable putting in that account. Les fonds qu'on l'avenir, moi gen temps, c'est tant seulement capable voyer l'aller. And be done. Si moun nan besoin pi plus, chérie, désolé, wap obligé retan l'autre mois. You understand what I'm saying? Again, it's not you being wap fè moun nan soufri, but you gotta be disciplined, because if you don't have, you cannot give.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is, put them on payroll, have a budget. If you don't have it, you don't have it. And whatever, if it's $250, you let me put in this account for the people. You don't have to send the whole $250. You could say, okay, pas un problème, ma voice 50, ma voice 100, whatever it is. But just kind of like be disciplined with that, because it's not going to go away on its own. And quite frankly, I feel like we've trained our brothers and sisters to do that a little bit more often than they should. And that's my personal opinion.
The only thing I would add to that, because it was very well said, I couldn't agree with you more, is try to make those phone calls a teachable moment as well. Yes. So if the phone call is about, my mortgage payment, well, then let's talk about your mortgage. Let's talk about how you're budgeting for that and what we can do about paying that down. Oh, you're still paying PMA? Why are you doing that? Let's figure out how to get rid of that. So everything you said, spot on, but also trying to make sure you give them homework too. All right, well, you know what? Next time we talk, you will have done these things, right? And, they're calling for assistance, so they'll say, yeah, okay, I'll do those things. And now you can have that conversation. Then if the phone call comes in, well, so how's it going? You said you were going to save, X percent. How'd that go? Did it work out? And you can kind of start to build in the strategies that we're all talking about.
Hold them accountable.
Because, knowledge is wealth. We haven't really talked about it in that sense, and that's something that's transferable generationally. So, sometimes we go to school and we learn all these things, and we're focused on accumulating wealth for ourselves and our future generations. But we also have to pass on what we learn to others, too. And, that should, to your point, slow down the phone calls.
So unfortunately, I think we are at time.
Passed, unfortunately.
Okay, I know that there are a lot of questions in the audience.
6.
We're going to be here for the rest of the evening, so feel free to reach out to all of the panelists.